Cup and the league all to be won. Everyone knows there's a job to be done, and with a team so fine, I'm proud they're mine. We'll be singing the song. For real bars of Berlin Athletic, and now we are on song. For real bars of Berlin Athletic, and we'll go marching on.
The Dunfermline Athletic Former Players Association podcast is sponsored by Starnut Apparel. Affordable and stylish clothing born on the terraces. Just head to www.starnutapparel.co.uk.
Pars fans, welcome once again to Walking Down the Holbeath Road, the podcast brought to you by the Dunfermline Athletic Former Players Association. I'm your host, Mikey Motkiewicz, and as always, in each episode, we'll be bringing you exclusive interviews with the legends who've helped write the story of Dunfermline Athletic Football Club. From unforgettable goals to iconic matches, from tales of triumphs to moments that define careers. We'll deep dive into the rich history of DAFC, and together we'll relive the glory days of East End Park and celebrate the players, coaches and managers who have left their mark in the black and white stripes. In this latest episode, we sit down with a former goalkeeper, Andy Rhodes, who joined the Pars in July 1990 from Oldham Athletic, fresh off appearing in the Littlewoods Cup final at Wembley Stadium. Andy quickly became a fan's favourite during his 2 seasons at East End Park. His outstanding performances saw him sweep up Player of the Year awards in his debut season, including Shoot magazine's prestigious Goalkeeper of the Year award, beating the likes of Liverpool's Bruce Grobbelaar and Arsenal's David Seaman. Known for his warm personality and the ritual of throwing his gloves into the crowd after games, and of course his talent between the sticks, Andy became a true cult hero during his time at the club. In this episode, we chat to Andy all about his time at the Pars, his teammates, the 1991 League Cup final against Hibernian, and much, much more. So let's go through the turnstiles, pull up a seat, and join me as we stroll through the Pars history on Walking Down the Holbeath Road with Andy Rhodes. Welcome to Walking Down the Holbeath Road. Andy Rhodes, how are we doing, Andy?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having me. And on the mend, after we spoke earlier about the knee surgery. So, well, yeah, back at it again, back on my bike, and won't say fully fit, but getting there, mate. But yeah, all right, thanks.
Brilliant. And tell the listeners what actually happened with your knee then. You had to go for a bit of surgery, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I was due to come up with yourself and do the goalkeeper's afternoon, which was really looking forward to. All organised, as you know. And I slipped with my left leg on the stairs, and my right leg actually hyperextended underneath, and I snapped my ACL. So when I went to see the surgeon regarding that, I had the scans, went to see the surgeon, and he repaired the ACL and just sort of said, look, let's repair the knee instead. So they put me a total knee replacement in, which I'm sort of been waiting for my left leg to be done for goodness knows how long, since back in the day of having a poor left leg. But it was my right leg because of the accident that I needed done. So, but yeah, all right now, and just trying to get fit enough to enable me to get the left leg done probably by the turn of the year.
See, when you played or coached, was your left side your stronger side? Is that why your left knee's a bit weaker than your right?
No, I'm predominantly left-footed. I'm right-handed, left-footed. But what happened when I played for Oldham back in the day, we played Sunderland at Roker Park. And it's the warm-up, and we never had the goalkeeping coaches. You never had the sub-goalkeeper, as part of the 2 or 3 substitutions. So it was just purely goalkeeper. And I was doing my warm-up with Andy Ritchie before the game, and we had a little practice side to side to side. And he fed it to the wrong side. This is the warm-up before the game against Sunderland. And I went and I tried to change direction quickly in the warm-up and did my ACL in my left. And that was me, and played the game with that. Very badly, may I add, but I played the game with it, and consequently went in and had the surgery with my ACL on the left. So since then, there's been a degeneration in the left leg.
Nightmare. You'd just be young at that point as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah, 24, 25, something like that. Yeah. It's quite a thing. And like I say, because I couldn't sort of pull out in the warm-up, that was the only one who'd travel up to Roker Park. You end up playing the game, making it no better, as you can imagine. And since then, I've had a serious degeneration. But, it's not so bad. I managed to get through a career with it, albeit a little bit weaker than my right one. And all right. So I'm fit to it'll be all right.
Right, how football's changed, eh? You can't imagine a goalkeeper playing, or any player, playing a full game with an injury like that nowadays.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you see it many times where in a warm-up they've had to change their team sheets. I've been involved on the coaching side where something's happened in a warm-up and it's quite for the better. So, you drag them out, put somebody else in. It's quite easy now. And like I say, and it is for the better, for the players' health long-term.
Brilliant. Right, let's kick us off. When I was doing research, Andy, obviously you done loads of Shoot magazine PR back in the day. You were a popular guy, and it described you as a flamboyant shot stopper and a fan's favourite. Would you say that was pretty accurate?
Yeah, I think. Well, I wouldn't say about. Possibly a flamboyant shot stopper would be accurate, because that was my game really. I think I'd find it difficult now, because my game was just across my line and making saves. I was pretty agile, pretty sharp, pretty quick across my line. That was a big part of my game. My weak parts would probably be my aerial work and my distributions. And obviously, first thing you look at nowadays, the question is, how's his distribution? That's not even a debate whether he can keep the ball out of the net. It's how good he is with his feet. And I think I'd find that difficult. So in terms of being a fan favourite, I've always related to fans. I was fortunate enough to have glove sponsorship, so I changed them after every game anyway. So I was in a position where I could give my gloves away, and it endears you to the fans. And if you interact with them, I think you get them on board, and I sort of could relate to it, being a football fan myself and a supporter. And I think that the type of game that I had, in terms of I threw myself around and I did make the odd save, which was a big part of my game. So yeah, I guess I was fairly accurate.
Perfect. I would say it's accurate. We'll cover plenty of that throughout the podcast, but let's kick us off. So what team did you support growing up?
Probably Doncaster Rovers, Doncaster boy. And I remember going there as a young boy, albeit not every week, but certainly to Doncaster Rovers to watch them, and War Boys and Laylaws and things like that, which is things your listeners will no idea what I'm talking about, these players, but sort of grew up with them. And the goalkeeper was Dennis Peacock, who I sort of looked up in awe at and thought he was just fantastic. And then I was fortunate enough to go on trial. The senior goalkeeper at Doncaster was a Scottish boy called Willie Boyd, which if you look through the archives, some of the guys would know. And Willie Boyd really took to me, got me in there as a 13, 14-year-old schoolboy and trained with Doncaster Rovers, albeit they never took me on in the end. But certainly, probably growing up would be Doncaster Rovers.
Perfect. And you probably touched on this. I was going to ask, who was your childhood hero?
Yeah, Dennis Peacock. I mean, the heroes was, in Shilton, Ray Clemens, Peter Shilton, and certainly Gordon Banks. I was fortunate enough to come across Gordon Banks. He was a goalkeeping coach at Leeds when I went there on trial with Billy Bremner, and I worked with Gordon Banks. He wouldn't be my ultimate hero, but in terms of the ones that were accessible to me, certainly Dennis Peacock at Doncaster Rovers and Willie Boyd at Doncaster Rovers.
Superb. Did you have any pre-match rituals or superstitions when you played?
Pre-match rituals, no. But superstition, I like to go out last. And it's something funny enough. Our Jordan, my son now who plays, he's sort of took that on as well. He likes to go out last. But he was always like to go out the tunnel last for whatever reason, for no apparent reason. But back in the day, you had the big goalie bag with about 19 pairs of gloves in it with all sorts of tat in it, which I hate with a passion now, I have to say. But I did that. I had all sorts of stuff thrown in there, which meant something to me. So not so much superstitions, but I just threw a load of stuff in a goalkeeping bag and took that out.
I was actually going to ask that, because you don't see it so often now with goalkeepers, but back in like the 90s, you used to always come out with like a glove bag.
Yeah.
And the back of the net type thing. And I was always wondering, what is in that? Like,
yeah. Well, technology's changed. So now they don't. One pair of gloves does dry weather, wet weather, whatever weather. The same glove would be able to do it all, do all them conditions. Back in the day, the gloves, the technology wasn't as good. So you probably have a pair if it was not raining before it, that you could go with. If it starts raining, you change them to that. And then you'd throw probably, like say, things that meant something to you, little trinkets of whatever have you in the bag. But certainly nowadays, and since I went on to the goalkeeping coaching and all that, I hated seeing that. I got all that. Everybody, I really don't like the idea of that, but it's not necessary anymore. And it was to a point back then because the technology was not what it is now.
Of course. Right, next one. Most influential person in your career?
Probably Joe Royle. Right, with me when he took me from Doncaster Rovers over to Oldham as a player. Worked with him all those years as a player, and then brought me back down and got me on the coaching ladder, and worked with him on the coaching and management side of it since then. So I'd have to say Joe Royle. Yeah.
Brilliant. What a legend at Everton as well, eh?
Yeah, not half. Yeah, still a family friends. Yeah, still family friends with us all now and his family. We've all grown up together. So yeah, really close, a really good guy, really good family, good people.
Superb, mate. And then final one for this part, your favourite song?
Oh, probably Nothing Else Matters, Metallica. Gets me gone. Gets me rocking out that, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Nothing Else. Although, I think there's as umpteen as everybody else would have. But, probably Metallica's version of Nothing Else Matters, yeah.
Well, I was reading, again, doing the research, you were a bit an Elvis fan back in the day.
Yeah. I've grown up since then as well. But yeah, I mean, who doesn't like Elvis? Fantastic. Yeah. I did back in the day, but you change a little bit. I'm a bit of a rocker down at heart, really.
That's it. Right, let's start your early days. Born 23rd of August 64, Doncaster boy. So tell us a little bit about growing up in Donny.
Yeah, Cairneyhill High School. Gosh. Yeah, growing up in Doncaster, Council Estate, Askin, a mining village. Everybody was a school. I was going through it. We're all going to go down to the pits and do something, one thing or another, which is not something that I had in mind. But yeah, it was okay. Tough mining village in the Doncaster area, like a lot of them were then. But good times playing football on the streets. It was great that I went to Cairneyhill High School, and our PE teacher Dave Ashton. He was, again growing up through school was a great influence on me and somebody I turned to. So I played football for the school team, played on a Saturday morning with the school team with Cairneyhill, and Dave played for the men's team in the Donny League for Railway United. So I played for the school. This is from like 11, 12 year old. This is when I was playing. So I played for the school team in the morning, jump in the car with Dave, the PE teacher at Cairneyhill, and go and play for his men's team, Railway United, in the Donny League.
Wow.
At that age, yeah, in the men's league. Oh, get battered a bit and they see this young kid in goal, and they all want to have a piece of you. But certainly he's a great learning kid, great education growing up through all of that, and something that I still feel now put me in great stead to carve out a career as a goalkeeper. But certainly through Cairneyhill High School, my fondest memories were not educational, were just playing football on a Saturday morning and then going to play for Dave's men's team in an afternoon. Nice.
Did you always want to be a goalkeeper?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I really did. I can't ever remember playing outfield, even on, on street corners on the concrete. I'd be in a little goal, and I'd be diving about. And certainly straight from school, I remember going from the junior school where I was in goal at junior school at 7, 8, 9 year old in goal for them, then going up to Cairneyhill, the senior school, and hoping I'd be good enough to get into their team. And I remember the trials when you first going there as an 11-year-old, hoping that I would be the one with 3 or 4 goalkeepers. I was trying out with 3 or 4 goalkeepers just to get in the school team, and it was in goal where I wanted to be.
And then at 15, you leave school and you sign as an apprentice at Barnsley.
Yeah.
So how did all that kind of come about?
Just school team. Sunday morning, Sutton Rovers. I played for this Sunday, so you're playing a Saturday morning. You did then Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon in the men's team. Sunday morning for my local boys team, and somebody scouted you. Asked me to go over to Barnsley in the pre-season. I'd already booked a holiday, actually, a family holiday, something like, must be school holiday, August time or something like that. And I went to Barnsley on trial. I'm an August 23rd birthday, so I left school I was 15. So I'd gone to Barnsley on this trial about, I don't know, mid-July, I suppose, and done all right. I had a week's there, and they offered me an apprenticeship, 2-year apprenticeship, which, gosh, I snapped my hand off. And then I had to say to him, oh, by the way, I'm going on holiday in a week's time and all that for a couple of weeks. Is that okay? It's already booked, which he was. But it was just purely getting invited in. couple of scouts see you in the local leagues, as they still do nowadays. These see the old boys and the coats and all that still trawling the football pitches on Saturday and Sunday mornings. And it was one of those who saw me and invited me in for trial. And luckily, Alan Clark thought it was enough with me and offered me a contract.
Brilliant. And as an apprentice back then, what was your duties? Were you doing all the old cleaning the boots and the stadium and
all of that? Is probably the older boys have said to you, So, by the way, Monday morning cleaning the stadium was fantastic because you'd be up on Ponty end of Barsdale, and you'd be sweeping down. You'd always find a bit of money, like you'd want the Ponty end. That's where they all were. So you'd end up getting a couple of quid out of it. All right, if you got the right part of the stand, but you always wanted to go to the Ponty end. Pontefract Road end at Barnsley because that's where all the money was that had been spilled out from the lads that had a couple of beers on Saturday, and you'd always find a couple of quid. So it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but the duties were the toilets, the usual apprentice stuff, cleaning the boots. Trevor Aylott, great centre forward, fantastic player. I was Trevor Aylott's apprentice, big number 9, London boy, Cockney boy, really good guy, nice guy, but so fussy. Every day boots had to be cleaned for the training and matches anyways. But Trevor did not want to get the polish on his laces. So I had to take his laces out every day, clean his boots, put the laces back in, the same lace on the same way to cross over. And I even do the laces now the same way as I did Trev's. Over the top and through, over the top and through, over the top and through. And it was Trevor who wanted his boots and like that every day because he didn't want the polish on his laces. And I'm there taking his laces out, cleaning his boots, putting the laces back in every single day. So that was one of the mundane ones. But amazing how things stick with you. That's the way I lace every pair of trainers or boots up even to this day. Same as what Fred.
What's your thoughts on obviously academy players these days don't do any of that? Do you think that's missing from the game, that kind of discipline and that learning at an early stage?
Is it missing? Possibly is, because it was great in terms of your discipline and things like that. It did change you as a person. And I remember working like the apprentices that I grew up with. Some wanted to do the jobs, some didn't want to do I didn't particularly want to do the jobs, but you did. But I think it's part of your discipline, and if you get yourself tuned in to do all of that, it helps with everything else. It's just focused. The lads get disciplined in different ways now, the younger ones, and certainly when I've been on my coaching side of it all, and I always dipped into what the younger ones were doing. I think the discipline through training and things. Do they miss out a little bit? Possibly, but the game and times have all moved on, so I don't think it's a bad thing that they don't do that nowadays. Not really.
And then 1985, you get a move back to your hometown team, Doncaster.
Yeah.
And you played 106 times for Doncaster. So what was that like?
Yeah, great. I loved it, Donny, and it was amazing because Billy Bremner signed me. When did he say? I can't remember exactly the timelines, but it was Billy Bremner who wanted me to go in there at Doncaster. And what a ledge. Yeah, absolutely going to go to Doncaster. I was out of the team at Barnsley. It was only a loan anyway, and I didn't think he would be a permanent. I went to Doncaster on loan. I thought, well, gets me a few more games. Billy Bremner's there. Why not? By the time I joined, Billy Bremner had left. He got the Leeds job. and Dave Cusack, who was great, I love dearly as well, big centre half. He got the player manager's job. And it was Cusey that took us on, and offered me a permanent deal there. And to go back to the hometown club, and albeit it was only on loan, I thought, well, it was going really well. And that's why when an offer of a full-time contract was there, I thought, yeah, why not? It was a great opportunity for me, and we had some really good players there. And I didn't hesitate in signing a full-time contract after the initial month, or I might have done 2 months loan or something like that.
Yeah, you signed there for 25 grand, according to my notes, in November 85.
Yeah, but I'd done a month's loan first. I think he was a loan, and then it was they wanted to make it permanent. So it was that the money now. Gosh, changed. Yeah,
decent enough fee back in the 80s, though, 25 grand.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I don't know what it was compared to everything else, but yeah, when people want to pay money for you, it tells you that you've done all right, doesn't it? Nowadays it's not such a thing, but I don't think anybody goes to 25 grand nowadays. They just get paid that every week, don't they?
Well, not up here. Not Dunfermline.
Right.
In 1988, you then got a move to Oldham because Andy Gorham comes up here to sign for Hibs. So what was it like at Oldham? And you mentioned Joe Royal. That was your manager at Oldham, wasn't it?
Yeah, fantastic. The halcyon days, as we talk about it now, I was really fortunate. I mean, Gorhams came up here and carved out the most wonderful career for himself because of his talent. But with crossed it paths all the time. We played against each other with Barnsley, we played against each other with Doncaster. So me and Andy, we grew up together. I knew him, or Joe Rowell knew me for playing against Oldham. So when Andy had got the move in place to come up here, I think Joe had sort of teed me up to go in to replace him there. And obviously it was an honour to go in there and do that. And luckily I managed to spend the time there. I didn't like saying, I call it the halcyon days of when we were in cup finals and semi-finals and promotions. It was a wonderful time for a wonderful little club like Oldham to do what they did, and the town was rocking. It was great. Best times in my footballing career, probably.
Brilliant. Talking about cup finals, 1990. You go to Wembley against Cloughie's Nottingham Forest. What's your memories in that team?
It's amazing how you play all these games, and there are very few games keep in your mind, but that does obviously was monumental for me. Coming from where I was and being given that opportunity, and we were arguably the best team in the country, especially at home. Oldham, we were fantastic, albeit we were a level below Forest and the Arsenal. Arsenal were double champions who would beat in the quarterfinals 3-1 on Boundary Park. We battered Arsenal, were double champions. So we turned up at Wembley, not just visitors. We thought we would win, and I look at the saves that Sutty made in the game, Steve Sutton, and I look at the goals we conceded, and I think we had half a chance. I was a bit disappointed. I felt it was probably the best game I've ever had in my career. I think personally it was probably my best performance. But as a team, I think even now when we talk about it, we felt we should have won. But their keeper, Steve Sutton, equally, he was terrific that day.
What was so special about that group of players? Was it just, were they a talented group, or was it just a good team spirit, or was it down to the management? What was it?
Yeah, it was just what you said there, Mikey. The manager, we respect Willie Donachie. A lot will know, of course. Brilliant staff. All the players, we were all mates. We all lived. Joe had us all living around the Oldham area. We all mates. We knocked about. The girls got on great. But out with that, the talent. I mean, they all want to be Premiership players. The lads, Andy Ritchie and Frankie Bunn up front, fantastic strike force. Dennis Irwin, everyone knows the career Dennis Irwin had. Ian Marshall, Premiership players. Earl Barrett, Premiership players. Mike Milligan, Premiership players. He was really, Ricky Olden, left winger, best crossfield ball I've ever seen. Goes to Man City, the Premiership players. All the team, apart from myself, went to be Premiership players, although I had a little dabble of being on a bench at Premiership, but most of them were top-level international Premiership players.
Then after that, you've got plenty of interest. I was reading Newcastle were wanting you, Watford, Bristol City wanted you, but a wee club in Scotland were keen. So how did all the move come about to come up to Dunfermline?
Yeah, it was Bristol City was the keen one, really, because Bristol City and Dunfermline were talking to all the line. It was up to me at the end. It was all agreed. It was up to me in the end that I could choose either Dunfermline or Bristol City. And I just thought the profile in Scotland would have been it. What it's like up there, and the passion that Scotland has for football. Would it be the same down at Bristol City, albeit a great club? Great club. It would have been a really tough decision. But I thought, you're in the spotlight every week. You're in there. Dunfermline, I could see, was on the fringe of doing something. I felt that Dunfermline were really going to explode. Ian Munro and Leashy, fantastic people, and talked us into it. Although I have to say it was Ian Munro, and I still stand by that. It was Ian Munro was a big influence when we come in there. I didn't meet Jim at that point, and Minnie he sold the club to me, and I just felt he was the right feeler. When I drove up there and we pulled up, and I felt that I had a right good feel about the place, and a great decision. I made a really good decision.
Brilliant. So the 11th of July 1990, the club paid 80,000 I've got here, but I've also read notes that it was 100,000. So a big fee.
Yeah, it was. It was a big investment for Dunfermline. It really was. It was a bold investment for the keeper, especially. That was it. They paid all that money for me, and I thought, okay, I'm up there and sold this, and I met Ian, and I met all the board, the staff, and Blair Morgans and people like that who were really good people, and sold it to me. And the first week's training, I'm thinking, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Ian Westwater is there. He's a better keeper than me. He looks a better athlete than me. He's top drawer, and I'm sat there thinking, what am I doing here? I have made a poor decision. I was really feared because of looking at Ian, and I wondered why the devil had paid that money to get me in the building. I really did.
And our quality keeper, and you'd obviously John Hillcoat there, a young boy at the time as well, trying to get through into the first team, eh?
Yeah, he was there. He was obviously the youth team, and we'd never really looked at him or worked with him. It was just certainly in the first few weeks, it was me and Westy. And like I say, the athlete and the keeper that Westy was, and then he plays the game, the first game of the season, the League Cup game, and Westy does great. And I'm thinking, this is what it is. And what a decision. And I could have been playing at Bristol, and all that sort of stuff went through my mind. So Hilly never really came into the equation for me, the thought process then, because he's a young keeper. As the years went on, obviously Hilly came through and produced what keeper he was. He was fantastic. Hilly, what talent. Johnny Speculante, we used to call him. He used to throw himself around. Talk about me throwing myself about. Johnny Hillcoat threw himself about more than anybody that I've seen. Made the most spectacular saves. He was brilliant on his line, was he? But in terms of the keeper, I felt Westy was outstanding, and I certainly was wondering what I was doing in the building, I have to say.
See, when you first come up, what was your first impressions of the group of players? Because it was a really talented squad at that point, wasn't it?
Oh, not half. I mean, me and Milos Drižić signed on the same day. Milos, Bristol Belgrade. We were in the hotel together, so we're going in and traveling. I see what Milos was doing with the ball. He's a centre half. I've never seen centre halves playing like that in my life. Didn't really work out for Milos because I don't think his game adapted to the Scottish game. Although what a player he was, but obviously the outstanding ones would be Isman. Was you're thinking, God, what a player! I knew Ian McCall from when he was at the Rangers. Ross Jacko I knew from down in England as well, playing to the centre forward. Giorgio Boyle, what? Giorgio Boyle, if it weren't for injuries, goodness knows what player Giorgio Boyle could have been. What a player, what a finisher, what skills, what feet he had. But more than old, and I won't say he probably regrets it, but Raymond Sharp, the left back, I thought, what a player this kid is. I think he's crying out. He's 6'1", he's got 3 lungs, he can run all day, does the hour in 30 minutes. This guy is made for an English left back, bombing up and up and down. And I know he went down to Luton on trial, Raymond, but I'm just watching him as a player. What a really solid bunch of players around, your Moises and your Norris and Tommy Smith and all of those people. But the outstanding ones that come to my mind were these guys, and I've been training Sharpie more than any of them. Honestly, I thought Sharpie was a wonderful player. Really was talented, yeah.
Brilliant. And you mentioned earlier Ian Munro. So when you come in, the club was kind of on a upward trajectory under Leash and Ian Munro.
Yeah.
What was the dynamics like when you first come in? Because obviously not long after you joined, there was the whole Jim Leishman leaving the club, and the club was just in an utter turmoil for a little bit.
He was difficult. And I made the biggest faux pas I ever made there by thinking that Ian Munro was the manager. I didn't even know Jim was at that point, because Ian had done all the negotiations, he'd done all the conversations with me in England, and I came up there. And like I say, I sort of got caught in between power struggle, probably between Ian and Leash to who's going to be the strongest here, who's going to survive. And Ian kept saying, I'm doing it here and I'm doing that. And then obviously as the years have gone on, I see what Leash's role was there. And I got caught in the middle of it foolishly, and I regretted massively saying what I said about Ian being the manager and didn't know it was Leash was. And that was only because I was caught, in the crosshairs of all this, what was going on behind the scenes. And I got involved in it, and I didn't need to, but it was only somebody, like say, asking me a question. And genuinely at that point, Ian Munro had done everything with me in terms of negotiation and getting in the building. But I realised now what was going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and what was it like from a player's point of view when Jim goes and the fans are obviously protesting, the attendances go down quite a bit? And
they weren't great, because the conversations was, look, this is where we're going now with Ian, and where we're going out with that, with Phil Bonnyman and all of these. This is the direction we're going. And sort of Leash was alienated for whatever reason, and goodness knows. I'm astounded even now why that was a thing. Gosh, it should never have been a thing, and I'm astounded to this day why that was a thing to oust Leash. But they would have had the reasons for that, whatever it may be. But certainly, I'm just in the building, and this is all going off behind the scenes. And the club that fall was really exciting. I got a chance of going somewhere, and then, like you say, the attendances suffered as a consequence of that because of Jim's popularity there, of course.
Was it difficult in the dressing room dealing with?
No,
this, because I've heard various stories, maybe the season before, that some players wouldn't know if to go to Jim or go to Minnie, or there was kind of that unsure who was, because obviously Ian would do most of the training and Jim would do the press stuff or whatever. So it must have been really confusing.
It might have been the year before, but it certainly wasn't for me, Mike. Like I say, Ian was the man, and I went away and he'd done everything. And he was really easy for me to say, because by that time, Ian was probably the stronger figure, the more prominent figure in all of this. So it was just Ian that we saw doing it all. I say, for whatever reason, I can understand why some players might have said it from the year before, when
of course
Jim was still a really prominent role and the two of them were at loggerheads as such. I can see that possibly being a bit of conflict for the players, but it certainly wasn't when I was pretty clear that Ian was doing it and I dealt with Ian.
Right, on to the season and your debut. No messing about. Do you remember?
Right. Oh, do I remember again? I go back to, there's very few games I do remember now, but certainly Ibrox there in front of all of that. Yeah, I remember that vividly. Yeah.
Welcome to Scottish football, eh? Debut
Proper.
Ibrox.
Proper.
Do you remember the score?
I think it was 3-1, but I remember one thing more than I remember anything.
Go for it.
Most penalty. He just moved cross borders, as it were, up there, and he was playing for them, and he steps up, and I'll have a bowl of that. Yeah, Sagan, Mo Johnson's penalty, obviously at Ibrox on debut. Posh. That's all right, isn't it?
That's not bad going. Do you remember who got the Dunfermline goal that day?
Ian Monroe, Ian McCall.
Ian McCall. Hey, some memory, Andy.
Yeah, I do remember. I remember it well, yeah.
We are Flow Digital Pharmacy, and we are proud to sponsor the Walking Down the Holbeath Road podcast. Our easy-to-use app is a convenient way to access your NHS prescription medication, and our team of trained pharmacists are helping thousands of people to access the support and medication they need. If you're registered with a GP who's based in England, you can use the Flow app to securely and conveniently send them NHS medication requests and arrange delivery to a location of your choice at a time that suits you. This means you can avoid the hassle of contacting your GP and making unnecessary round trips to eventually collect your prescription. Find out more at weareflow, spelled PHLO. That's weareflow.com.
Brilliant. Well, that debut season, you played 35 games, so you took the number 1 jersey from Westy.
Yeah.
And then it was a really good season for you. You won loads of awards. One that we spoke about before was the shoot. Eurosport goalkeeper of the year, beating David Seaman and Nigel Spinks of Aston Villa.
I know.
That must have been a good honour for you.
It was nice down the day. I look at the teams the players that were on the list there. That it's a vote that you get every week, and if you're making 15 saves and conceding one, it looks a bit better than these lads playing and not having a lot to do. I say that about Andy Gordon, like at Rangers, and what made him fantastic is he did have one save to make every 3 weeks, and he would make that save. Whereas at Dunfermline and Saints and things like that, would have a bit more to do. And the more you have to do, it camouflages your errors a little bit. So in terms of winning that award, which was lovely, but I took it for what it was. That you don't make you the best goalkeeper in the world, but you made a few saves when you've had a lot to do.
Brilliant. And you also won the Club Player of the Year, loads of Supporters Clubs Player of the Year as well. So you must reflect on that season as a good one in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. Very successful. It really was. Like I say, from the first week going in there in training and seeing Westy's talent to questioning why I was there to how he finished. In the end, he was great. Yeah. And obviously the cup final again in the middle of all of that, which was a nice thing for us, albeit not the right result, but yeah, it was a really successful season for me personally. After wondering where the devil I would be for the game of football after the first week being in the building.
The carnage. Well, that cup final you mentioned, the following season, 91-92, where you played 44 league games. Jockey Scott had then come in. Ian Munro lost his job. So what was Jockey? Well, what was Minnie like first and foremost, and then compared to Jockey? Yeah,
I mean, Ian was very particular, very coaching orientated. You know, I wouldn't say that Jockey wasn't, but you had Gordon Wallace, who the two of them would do the coaching and sit there. But Ian wanted to do everything, and Ian was a great coach. More than anything else, Ian Munro was a fantastic coach. Was Jockey Scott a fantastic coach? Probably didn't do as much as Ian. Jockey's qualities was in management and dealing with players and that side of it all, where Jockey's strengths were. I felt on the coaching side of it all, Gordon Wallace would do quite a bit. But certainly the dynamic of Gordon and Jockey Scott, as opposed to what Ian, it was a different dynamic. Because like I say, Ian was a functional coach, working with players, coaching on the field, whereas Jockey Scott was more management side of it all, you know, and that had a different model of working with his players, really.
It was a tough season now. I think we're battling relegation, but you mentioned it earlier, we got to the League Cup final against the Hibs.
Yeah.
What's your memories? Obviously, the run-up to that, the semi-final with the penalties, and then obviously getting to the final.
Yeah, again, great. You know, penalty shootout, the Tynecastle there. I remember it vividly against Airdrie, and remember who I saved them from, and I remember the last one, and then I remember big Honk scoring the winning goal there then. You know, so it's fantastic to win it on shootouts. Not great to lose, but they're great to win it on them, aren't they? And then obviously the final was probably a bit of a damp squib after all of that. And for a game where we were massively in it at half time, I saw some things at half time that I look back now and probably influenced the result. You know, a bit of a shame, you know, the penalty kick happening and everything else. And from being 0-0 and not doing great to thinking, well, okay, let's, you know, get on and then see what second half looks like. He didn't. He went the other way.
It was such a missed opportunity, because Hibs at that point were not a club that were doing well either. So
that's right. Really massive. Like I say, I saw the second half, and I saw one or two things that I feel probably influenced why we didn't win. You know, or should have done be better. Really.
Your last game for the club was the end of that season, May 1992. Do you remember what game that was?
No. Don't know.
It was away to St Mirren and another 3-1 defeat. So you started with a 3-1 and you finished with a 3-1. With Big Moisey getting the goal.
Right, did he? Yeah, I didn't know that. Right.
So by that time, the club were obviously, they'd never really recovered from the Leishman Munro thing, and it must have been tough. Were you looking to leave then by this point, or did it just?
No,
you realise that?
Yeah, not at all. Got 3-year deal, another year left. Not at all. Again, it's taken out your hands at that point when they've been relegated and an offer comes in which they think, geez, the money for getting a couple of players in and a couple of money and whatever have you, it just looked like good business for Dunfermline. So I get it. You know, it's almost out of your hands, as was the other move that I had at Saints into Airdrie, but we'll get to that one. But it was almost out of my hands, yeah. Albeit Ali Totten coming in, like, I love Totty with the passion, and he was, again, fantastic from me up there at Saints. Loved him. Great man.
Yeah, good manager back in his time. The 300 grand.
Yeah.
Paid for you, plus Lindsay Hamilton and Roddy Grant moving to Dunfermline. So quite a big deal back then, eh?
It was a big deal, and like I say, it made a bit of sense really for Dunfermline. If you'd just gone down, why wouldn't you do that? What a player Roddy is, and Lindsay, you know, you got 2 and a couple of quid, you know, it just looked like good business for them. And okay, he got me back into Premiership, and I was around a really good club like Saints and working with Alec Totten, who I respected and like a lot.
And round about that time, there was a lot of publicity about you trying to get into the England squad. I think Graham Taylor had come up quite a lot and watched it. How true was all that kind of paper talk?
Yeah, I ain't sure that Graham Taylor would come up. I'd got a profile by then, you know. Like I say, it sort of did the job what I was thinking by going to Scotland, where I'm in the news and I'm on Match of the Day, and I'm around, I'm generating a little bit of traction. And the keepers down in England, I can't remember who was in the national squad then, but I was certainly getting muted as being, certainly to have a look at. Whether I would start or not, it's a different kettle of fish, but certainly getting muted to be having a look at, and I think I was, but to what extent of actually being in the setup was a different story. I'm not so sure.
So it never really come close to getting a phone call, or?
I didn't get a phone call to go down there and do training camps at all. No, not at all.
So over the 2 seasons, Andy, at Dunfermline, 79 league games, 89 in total, and 18 shutouts. So just reflecting back, what would you highlight as your best moment at East End Park?
Probably debut. Yeah, the obviously I remember vividly the Rangers debut. Like I said, you know, that's why I knew Colin scored and taking the penalties, and that sticks in my mind. They'd beaten Airdrie in the semi-final at Tynecastle, more than the final really in itself. I remember having a row with somebody at Hampden, so I had to give me gloves, and a policeman was manhandling me. So I remember having a row there. That sticks in my mind. Well, probably the semi-final and selling my debut. Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. There was loads of characters in that dressing room. You've mentioned a good few in this so far. Is there any dressing room stories that you could tell us? Spring to mind?
Not really. No, not really. That wouldn't, compromise the boys, you know what I mean? He's the usual banters that everybody's heard a million times. You know, first season we went away to Ibiza, all of us, and had the usual giggles and what have you. But he usually centred around Sharpie and Norrie and Roscoe, Paul Smith. They usually centred around them lots, all the joviality. Yeah, Ray Farningham, Farney would be, Farney would be involved there.
And were those the guys with the VIP cards for Lorenzo's as well?
Yeah, probably. yeah, probably.
Superb. Who was your best mate at the club? Who were you close to?
All right, well, all of them really. You know, we've got round all of them really. Craig Robertson probably in the latter bit when he'd just come in. Where I lived there in Cairneyhill, the Glasgow boys used to come in. Moisey, Ian, McCall, they would be in the car. They'd pick me up, so you'd travel in for the last little bit. I'd just wait up by the Cairneyhill in there, and I would travel in with them because Craig Robertson lived just around the corner from us as well. So all of them really, but it was more family life. And I get back to Cairneyhill, and all my mates lived in the village there really, rather than the football side of it all. Because you know it's like in Scotland, the lads live here, there, everywhere. They're over the water, either in Edinburgh or Glasgow. It wasn't like it is down, or it was down here in England, where most players then, you know, you lived, you bought them, you signed, and you all moved in the area. You're all around one another. It wasn't so much up there. Certainly got on great with all of them all.
Right, you stayed in Cairneyhill most of your time in Scotland, didn't you?
Yeah, I loved it there. I loved the community. I loved the people there. Yeah.
So St Johnstone. 92 to 95, you go to St Johnstone. George O'Boyle follows in 94.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier Alex Totten signed you, then Paul Sturrock would then come in. So what was your time like at McDermott Park?
Fantastic. First couple of years were brilliant. Certainly when Totty was there, brilliant. We were really good players again, going back to what we had in terms of players, really talented boys. Unfortunately, Alec lost his job, and then John McLaren took over. He was in between Paul Sturrock come in. And it was okay, sort of got a bit disjointed a little bit after Totty left. Didn't have the same feel, and we lost a few players, and they'd all moved around a little bit. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the first couple of years there anyway.
Brilliant. And then George, like I said, followed in 94. What was George like up at St Johnstone?
Great, overcoming his injuries again, but great. And all right up there, what great strikers. We had good strike balls. Vinny Harkins, Irish boy. Don't know if it happened to Vinny, but I thought he'd got a chance. Like, do you remember Vinny Harkins? Big, tall, blonde-haired Irish boy. Yeah, really robust and smashed people around. And George had come in, and midfielder John Davis. We were really strong. We thought we'd half a chance, but then he sort of, like I say, weren't going great. Alec Totten loses his job, and then he sort of filtered out a little bit. It wasn't the same feel about the place after that.
Yeah, and then you go to Airdrie from St Johnstone. So you mentioned it earlier. What happened then leaving St Johnstone to go to Airdrie?
Yeah, they almost press ganged into it. You know, it's like, I got another year left at Saints. Paul Sturrock didn't really fancy me. I was training. I was training at 4 and 5 o'clock in the evenings with John Blackley, who was brilliant. Sloop was fantastic. I had to go in on my own. They didn't want me in the building. Airdrie wanted to buy me. Did I want to go to Airdrie? Not particularly. I had a bit of history with Airdrie in the past. And I'm thinking it's ain't right for me. Paul Sturrock made things very difficult for me there. I had no choice but to go, really, because of the way I was being treated up at Saints. And they wanted the money, what Airdrie were going to pay, and made it very clear to me that I saw I had to go. So I had to go.
Dark side of football, that, isn't it?
And it happens.
Horrible.
Yeah, it happens.
So you speak about Airdrie. I don't know who's not had a ding-dong with Airdrie over their career up here, to be fair.
Yeah.
You go to Airdrie, and there's one specific game I want to speak to you about, and it's the one Dunfermline win the first division at East End.
Yeah.
And the whole Mark Miller penalty thing. What's your memories of that and bringing down Alan Moore? Can you remember all that?
Yeah, I remember it being a really bad decision for me going out with Murray. Murray's never going to score from that far out. What am I doing? Tearing out the goal there, doing that. Yeah, poor decision from me. But they were better than us anyway.
I know. It was a good Airdrie team at that point as well. Yeah, really like a tough battling team.
Unbelievable. Absolutely. Really. Paul Jackson, Kenny Blacks and Nippers. And Nipper had gone to Hearts by then. Well, really
Harvey on the wing was class, eh?
Yeah, really good side. Yeah, really good side.
Yeah.
Again, I was sort of forced to go to Airdrie. And John Martin, fantastic keeper, legend at Airdrie. And I'm sort of thinking, why don't I go here? John Martin's a different class anyway. What am I doing going to Airdrie when they've got a class goalkeeper? But I sort of was taking out my hands in regard of that. But I ended up being there. But a really strong side, really, like you said, Alan McDonald had Airdrie robust. You should have seen the pre-season they were doing up at Murder Hills at Gullens and things. And I'm like, God, I wasn't the best runner at the best of times. And these boys are flying up. John Martin's playing through and Jimmy Sanderson smashing through things, and Blackie can run all day, and powerful boys in the gym working that. And I'm like, wow, these just should be a rugby side, really should be though. That's strong.
Yeah, I remember that season Dunfermline and Airdrie were having a lot of battles, like every time they played. And obviously the last game of the season, Dunfermline won the title.
Yeah.
There was a question I was going to ask you. There's this kind of myth or rumour that's circulated with supporters that night you were out in Dunfermline with the Dunfermline players. Is that true?
It's not exactly true, but I stayed afterwards after the game, as I would do normally after the game at East End, because I lived just up the road. So they were all obviously the celebrations for them, and I was around that. So I was in there, then all the players were in. So I'd stayed for an hour after the game, and I went home. That was it. I didn't go out on the open top bus celebrating with them. No, I didn't.
There we go. We've cleared that one up then.
Yeah.
Fast forward a little bit. When you finish your playing career, you move into the coaching side, the goalkeeping coaching. Was that always the pathway you were looking to make?
Yeah, I'd started it down at Largs while I was up at Saints. I'd done my coaching badges. I started the process while I was up at Saints. So it was something I was thinking about. And it was obviously the goalkeeping coaches were becoming more prominent than most clubs had them, albeit up in Scotland were part-time, whereas down in England we're getting more and more full-time goalkeeping coach. And I saw that was going to be the next stage, really. You know, I'd set it in place 2 or 3 years before I'd retired, but certainly was something I was thinking about when I'd finished at Airdrie. I went down into England playing with Halifax when we won the conference, but I sort of finished at Halifax then, and Halifax had gone into the league then. We won the conference by a mile. I think it was great team at Halifax then I had, and that was sort of like the last of it, really. I'd got offered a coaching job while I was at Halifax, and I was going to start that the next season.
Is that back to Oldham?
Barnsley. No, I went there eventually, but it was Barnsley who that was my first coaching job. John Hendry, Scottish boy John Hendry.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so John offered me the coaching job there, and exactly, it was a great time and great opportunity. John had just come in and got the job there and wanted to get some infrastructure around and want to do things properly. We were in the Championship, really good side, pushing for things then as well. Barnsley were up there, and again, he got licensed. We're just getting the job to bring in a full-time goalkeeping coach and do all that. And I was just fortunate to be in the area at the right time. Eric Winstanley, who was my assistant manager with Alan Clark and Norman Hunter when I was at Barnsley in a previous life, was still there. There's John Henry's number 2, and Eric and I know each other, and Eric was a big instigator of me getting into there and getting the coaching job.
Brilliant. Did you enjoy the coaching side of it?
Second-hand thrills, I call it. Second-hand thrills. You know, it's the next best thing, isn't it? You know, all the lads that you have on will say when you played, but I certainly like being around players. I like Saturday afternoon at 3:00. I liked all that side of it all, but it's still second-hand thrills. Nothing beats actually playing, but it was the next part of it. And I have to say, you know, I was better at it than I was a goalkeeper, which was nice to know I'd improved and actually got to somewhere where I wanted to be on the coaching side.
Yeah, was that just down to experience and all those years actually playing in the game and working with different goalkeeping coaches? Yeah,
a bit from everywhere. Certainly that, and experienced it. I see nowadays, I think a lot of the goalkeeping coaches nowadays, not all, but a lot, the academics now will come through and the statisticians, and they know this, that, and the other. And I wonder, you know, where you are in terms of how you talk to a goalkeeper in the last minute, and when you've not experienced that process, or what you need to say and what you don't, what your feelings are like in a situation. I find that difficult to comprehend. I feel like you have to have experienced it to be able to talk to somebody educated about it and to help them. I really believe that. I really believe you should have experienced it, but a lot aren't nowadays. But what do I know?
That's how the modern game's going, isn't it? See, you were at Barnsley, you were at Oldham, you were at Ipswich for 4 years, Preston North End, and then 8 years at Sheffield Wednesday. You worked beside Lee Bullen.
Yeah.
Fan favourite up here.
Yeah, me and Bull speak now all the time. Love him dearly. Yeah, great lad, Bulls. I was in there, and Bully was doing the youth ones, and Bully again developed and came through and worked with us, the seniors, and we always worked closely with one another. Always travelled away together, and yeah, Bully and I, obviously with associations with the Pars as well, gone really well, and we still do. Good friends even now.
He's a great guy. And then after your goalkeeping coach, you then had a wee spell as an assistant manager.
Yeah,
What was that like going from? Yeah, what was that like going from a goalkeeper coach to then that role as an assistant manager?
Different world class. Wish we'd have been given more opportunity, because thoroughly enjoyed that more than any of the other stuff. Thoroughly enjoyed that. When you're on the touch line and your livelihood matters on the result, and it's your week's building up and doing it that way. When you're a goalkeeping coach, you're just trying to improve players as such, as well as supporting obviously the manager and stuff. But when you're up against it with me and Frankie, where we were older and results mattered to us. Oh, great. I loved all that. Really, really fantastic experience, albeit not long enough because of one thing or another.
What was the toughest part of that job?
Managing up. Yeah, we had tough times with the crowd and the owners and everything else. We had a tough situation there, both Frankie and I, and all of the fans, all the Oldham fans had the same situation, the same tough time. It was really difficult. The football side was really, really, really great and enjoyable, but the managing up side of it all, I found challenging.
Yeah, would you go back into it?
Blink of an eye. Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah, in blink of an eye. Yeah, love it.
I never say never in football, Andy.
You never know.
One thing I was going to touch on, obviously you've mentioned him earlier on the podcast, your son Jordan, who carved out a football career and obviously still playing. So
yeah,
you must be so proud of what Jordan's achieved, and obviously playing for Scotland as well in his career.
Yeah, fantastic. As any father would say, you're proud of everything what your kids do, all your children, whatever they get up to. But certainly in terms of Jordan, with his footballing career, he's done great. You know, he's done it all off his own back. He's pushes himself, works hard, so conscientious, such a great bro, best pro I've ever seen, best professional, teetotal, eats properly, lives his life, sleep, everything football. He's the best professional I've ever come across. Talented boy, great finisher. Obviously limited to whatever other parts of his games is, which people would always question him about. But in terms of his goal scoring numbers and the way he lived his life and his professionalism, best I've ever seen. Fantastic.
Brilliant. And what's he doing now? Because he's just been released by Blackpool, hasn't he?
Yeah, looking for another year. Still fit boy. He's up. His contract actually finishes at Blackpool next month, so we'll be looking for a club for next year. Probably get another year. He's 35 now and he feels healthy enough to play another year. So we'll be on the lookout to try and get him tied up for another year somewhere.
Do you not fancy a little trip back to Cairneyhill, no?
Oh, I think you would, really. Yeah, you know, there. Funny enough, Ian up there, who's Neil Lennon's number 2, was at Blackburn and Blackpool with Jordan. So we know Brunny really well up there, and obviously I know Lenny really well.
Who knows? Just rounding up then, mate. 437 games between 1983 and 2008 as a professional footballer. How would you sum up your time as a player and as a coach to date?
Yeah, I like I say, I feel as though I was a better coach than a player. From what I know now on the coaching side of it all, I wish I'd have known then. I wish I could have done things a little bit better, been a bit more, worked a bit harder at my game. I was just all instinctive, and I just thought that was enough, and it ain't. You know, it isn't. I should have been a bit better at my all-round game. All I wanted to do was be in goal, even in training, being on smash the ball. I meant make saves. I want to make saves. I just wouldn't do that until it got dark. You know, smash a ball at me. I should have worked a little bit more at the aerial stuff and the distribution stuff. So I think I could have improved my game a little bit. You only know that when what I know now in terms of the coaching side. But kid from Askin who's growing up playing with the men's team and in the Donny League for Railway United to actually playing at Wembley's and Hampdens and I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take that.
I think you've done okay, mate. How would you get on in today's game?
Oh, I'd struggle. Yeah, I'd find it very difficult. I'd be all right now because nobody crosses the ball anymore. They're playing inside to out. They're inverted wingers and playing. Nobody crosses the ball, so I'd be all right on that side of it all. The distribution I'd find difficult because I was so left-footed, as most left people are. The the techniques on the left, where it's left-footed, left-handed, and great techniques, better than right technicians. But what right people are, the more competent with the weaker foot. I was really poor in the weaker foot, being left-footed. I'd find the distribution side of it all, although the aerial side I'd be all right with, So I think I'd find it difficult nowadays, just in terms of the one goalkeepers to be midfielders playing in goal, don't we?
And that's it. What do you make of the modern day goalkeeper?
I think the emphasis is on, like I say, a midfielder playing in goal, particularly the top level. Not as you work your way down the tiers, but certainly the top level, they want a midfielder more than anything else.
Yeah.
Games have changed so much in terms of the goalkeeping. They keep goal differently. Nobody goes down and under anymore. They're just making themselves in star shapes and things like that. And goalkeeping is a different game nowadays, but the keeper's fantastic. They've evolved and adapted the game to what modern managers and coaches want. And like I say, they all want this ideal game of splitting centre halves, playing through the back, playing through the thirds, which is great if you're fantastic teams in the Premiership. It's when you go down the tiers and you see managers still want the goalkeepers to do that, where defenders, the back four midfielders are not as comfortable on the ball, and I see so many goalkeepers giving goals away unnecessary because they're obviously being forced to play through the thirds.
Yeah.
When if you just flip teams round and press and got them regaining the final third, you'd be conceding. So that is so bizarre. That's in the lower tier.
Okay.
They still want to do the same principles as they see the Premiership boys doing, who are good at it, and then these guys aren't good at it, and they're conceding a goal every week doing it.
Yeah, I don't understand why coaches have that mentality. Why not just keep things simple? Especially at that lower level, like you say, the players maybe aren't capable of playing that way. So why try it?
I don't know whether they feel that fans want them to see playing proper football and playing through the thirds and do that. I don't know. Well, fans want to see him win.
Win games, yeah.
Just win. If I was, fortunate to get back in, I would not be doing that, depending on what level he is, of course. But, what's wrong with playing it into a big guy, getting a regain in the final third and pressing and getting that ball there or flipping teams round?
Exactly.
Exactly.
I totally agree.
Nobody risks the ball anymore. It's just too safe. Nobody risks it. Nobody dare risk it. They'll play side and back rather than risk a ball anymore.
And you mentioned it earlier, there's no crosses into the box now, which is one of the best ways of scoring a goal and causing a bit of chaos. So
they'll be confident. We'll say mad. Particularly, there we go. Yeah, but hey,
madness.
We'll still do it. We'll still go and watch it and do it next week, won't we, mate?
I know, that's it. I think I know the answer to this one. If you could relive one match throughout your career, what one would it be?
Probably the Oldham Cup final, because I felt we should have won that.
Yeah,
they
playing at Wembley.
Yeah, we played at Wembley. We had chances to win it. We had great opportunities. Probably had more chances than them. Their keeper was outstanding. So you've got to say, fair enough. If he's playing outstanding, we were better than them. And I felt it was a result that we didn't deserve.
What about your best save throughout your career? Is there one that stands out in your memory?
Best save? Oh, not really. What's my best save? Important ones. You make important ones. Best ones. I can't think now.
Too many to pick from, mate.
I wish, yeah. Saves and saves, yeah. But, it's too many to pick from, really. It's just important ones. They don't necessarily have to be fantastic saves. It's what matter at important times. That's why I said about Andy Gordon, I think, was I give him the best, certainly the best in Europe in his pomp at Rangers, because making saves when you need to, when you haven't done it for a month's time, that's proper goalkeepers. That's
the concentration levels.
Nev Southall, Andy Gordon, at that time, the best around.
Yeah, definitely. What is Andy Rhodes doing now?
I work with a company called YMU, which is a fantastic talent identification company, looking after a lot of elitist professionals in different aspects. The football side of it all is quite small, which is where I'm involved. But in terms of the entertainment, the music, and all of that, we're massive, London-based. YMU they're called. We've got Anton Dex, and but the football side, like I say, is quite small. And I predominantly look after the goalkeepers within the football department of that. So our model is elitist goalkeepers. We only deal with internationals from 16s up to whatever, and looking after them, going to watch them play and helping with the game alongside the teams that they're involved with. Our Jordan's been with them. Yeah, our Jordan's been with the company for a while. So that's how I sort of fell into it, if that's the right thing to say. Jordan's still with us, so I've looked after Jordy with his moves throughout his career. But when I'd lost my job at Oldham, I got invited to come and join the company. Like I say, predominantly look after the goalkeepers within the football department of YMU.
Sounds like the perfect job
Like
for an ex-goalkeeper.
Yeah, it's nice because you're dealing with talented boys, and that's why I was down in London. We had the end of season's appraisal for a young guy called Dylan Thompson that we've got at Spurs. Really talented boy. It was his end of season appraisal. I had him in with his parents just to chat through how he feels this season, that type of thing. So
yeah,
I help them out. It's all right. It gets me out of the house.
Brilliant. And keeps your foot in the game as well, doesn't it? Still involved. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, still at 2 or 3 games every week. Still got to see 2 or 3 games every week where the boys are involved, and I get to see Jordan most weeks now, which I never did when we were playing, when I was coaching, and then you get to see him unless we were working together. I had him in Sheffield Wednesday. We worked together in Sheffield Wednesday for a while, so I could see him then. But most of his career, I was working at other clubs, so I didn't see him so much when the games late on a Saturday. So it was nice to see him over the last couple of years playing every week. So it's been great.
Brilliant, mate. Final question. What does Dunfermline Athletic mean to Andy Rhodes?
Oh, it's where the children were brought up. It's honestly, it's childhood memories from the children. We all talk about it. It was a big career and life move for me and the missus back then. And got welcomed and embraced in the Dunfermline community. There's certainly the Cairneyhill community. Still got friends that we speak to all the time up and around Cairney. But it's just Dunfermline was probably, like I say, is a childhood memories where the children, when we left Dunfermline, I swear to you, we left Dunfermline to come back down to England, and that was it. We saw Pat the house up, going over the Forth Road Bridge. We're all so emotional that we feel leaving Scotland. We felt so emotional because our hearts had sort of grown up, and the children had grown up and born up there in Scotland, and we miss it massively, and we still go back when we can. We'll say our friends are still there, so massive part of our life. It's a fantastic place, so we'll still love dearly.
Super, mate. Well, let's hope you come back up one game next season. It'd be great to see you back at East End.
Yeah, you still owe me a luncheon. We still need that luncheon. One was cancelled, my knee and things. So need to get up there. Need to see you. Need to see all the guys and the fans and all that up there. So I need to take you up on that Sunday afternoon luncheon one again. So we'll do that soon, please, pal.
Brilliant, mate. We'll sort that. No worries. Yeah. Andy, it's been brilliant catching up, and really appreciate your time.
It's a pleasure, mate.
Thanks for listening to Walking Down the Holbeath Road, and a big thank you to our latest guest, Andy Rhodes, for joining us on this month's episode. And of course, you guys, the listeners, for joining us yet again on this podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to Walking Down the Holbeath Road on your favourite podcast platform. This podcast, as always, was produced by Jan Motkiewicz and music supplied by Stuart Dusty Miller. Thanks once again for listening, and we look forward to walking down the Holbeath Road again next month.